Gutom na ba kayo? Food or access to food remains to be the single most important factor in our day-to-day living. It's a reality. Our society is either crippled or boosted by each person's access to nutrition. We're about to dish some insights about food security. Kaya kabataan, it's now time. Now, Youth Talk.
How do I reconcile my loved one's political
How do we
differences?
campaign in a
How do
pandemic?
we engage our candidates?
How do we
What
talk to
if
our
I
community?
don't like my elected officials?
How do you respond to respect my opinion?
It is now time for the voice of the youth to be heard. Now, Youth Talk.
Kabataan ang maririnig, katotohanan ang mananaig. Oras na tayo na, boto mo'y mahalaga. Kung hindi ngayon kikilos, kailan pa ba?
Magandang araw, hapon o gabi, whatever time you're listening to this, welcome to the very special episode of Now Youth Talk, where in 5 episodes we will be talking about some of the major election issues that we need to be addressed in 2022 campaign period. Hello everybody, I'm Alia, a second-year AB Communications student from the University of Santo Tomas. And I'm very pumped up and excited to share with you a lot of important information you need to know, especially ngayong eleksyon. Siyempre, bilang isang responsable at maalam na mamamayang Pilipino, hindi lang dapat mga kandidato ang kinikilatis natin. But we also need to learn and know about certain problems in our country and the reasons why we have it in order for us to have a deeper understanding about how to put an end to this, diba? Kaya naman guys, nandito ako ngayon hindi lang magbahagi ng mga news, issues, but I'm also here to learn and have healthy discussions with you. Because hindi to natatapos sa podcast lang, you know. We are also encouraging you to send your thoughts or reactions about our topics and also join our Discord server to further educate ourselves. I also chose to host this podcast because I want to have an active participation in this election and not only consume the information I know, but also put it into good news, diba? Into good use, I mean, diba? Kaya, ayan, I'm very excited to have this podcast and discuss with you. And right now, we are shuffling our usual format to give you a rundown of the election issues covered by our youth activation campaign, Now You Vote, by Now You Know. And we'll be starting with food security, followed by education, health, peace and security, and then transparency and accountability. Very great topics for everyone. Kaya as we equip you to handle these important conversations, our call remains oh so simple and oh so important lang, guys. We will be talking about issues. Let's talk about platforms. Let's talk about the people. Kaya time check naman tayo dyan. It is now time for the voice of the youth to be heard. Guys, 40 million members. 40 million members of the youth are set to vote on May 9th, 2022. Grabe, 40 million, no? Whether or not you are part of that demographic, this election is with no exaggeration the defining event of our generation. That is why our call for 2022 is kabataan ang maririnig, katotohanan ang mananaig. Change a mind today. I encourage every one of you to share this podcast with your friends and family and have them take part in 2022's most important conversations. Kaya guys, wag na tayong patumpik-tumpik pa, wag nang paligoy-ligoy pa. Let's hop on to our first topic, which is food security, which is linked directly to hunger. Kumakalam na ba ang sikmura mo? O sumasakit ang iyong ulo? Hunger is an uncomfortable or painful physical sensation caused by insufficient consumption of dietary energy. Ito yung gutom na na-experience natin, diba guys? It is it becomes chronic when the person does not consume a sufficient amount of calories or on a regular basis lead a normal, active, and healthy life. And this is where food insecurity comes in. A person is food insecure or tawag natin sana food insecure pag kulang sila ng regular access to enough safe, hindi lang safe but also nutritious food for normal growth and development and an active and healthy life. So kulang yung mga nutrients, kulang at hindi safe yung mga ini-intake nila. And this may be due to unavailability of food and or lack of resources to obtain food. Wow. Food insecurity can be experienced at different levels of severity. First is moderate hunger, which refers to those who experience hunger not only once or a few times in at least 3 months. And as to severe hunger naman, guys, this refers to those who experience it often or always in the last 3 months. Whew! Grabe. That's a lot to take in. And guys, feel free to take a pause before we move on to the next part kasi marami pa tayong malalaman at marami pa tayong information na matatackle sa next part.
Ito po, di ako nakakaranas ng gutom. Ngayon po, nararanasan ko na. Kapag wala ka pong pagkain, hindi ka po pa nakakakain, tatamarin ka kumilos, kumbaga lumpapay ka na lang. Parang nanginginig ka na lang sa gutom nung di ka na magsasalita.
Hunger took a sharp turn upward during the pandemic. And according to SWS, over 7.6 million Filipinos experienced hunger in the pandemic. Wow. As the roads closed, access to food quickly followed with an 8.80% hunger rate in December 2019, quickly turning to a 30.70 hunger rate in just September 2020. And here's an important point, guys. Hunger has always been there. Even before the pandemic, it has only worsened, which means it demands more of our attention, diba? And a question now arises. Has our response to hunger changed at all over the duration of pandemic? Let's find out.
Kaya ako naman niraos ang pamilya ko. Tsaka ang hirap ng buhay ngayon, sir. Ang hirap ng walang pasahero. Inaabot kami ng gabi dito para lang makabili ng pagkain eh. Makabili ng itlog at saka tuyo, okay na po eh. Hindi kami makabili ng baboy, hindi kami makabili. Yun lang po ang kaya namin.
Industries were also upturned over the course of the pandemic, and with the workers at the losing end. Joblessness was at its bleakest when it rose to 45.5, with almost half of the workforce either voluntarily leaving their jobs or losing their jobs because of the economic circumstances beyond their control. Grabe, ang dami rin talagang naapektuhan with this pandemic, and we can really see that this has also an effect to what we are tackling right now, which is hunger. Come hell or high fever, a person would have sought work to feed themselves or their family. But the person who cannot work cannot so easily or reasonably find food without having to also deal with other living expenses such as housing, utilities, education, and most especially the emergent and glaring medical needs. So aside from food, no guys, nakikita natin na hindi lang food yung pinagkakagastusan, but also these said things kanina. And that is what we have to look upon. Hindi lang hunger, but also other needs ang naapektuhan because of joblessness. And during the pandemic or in any calamity and disaster, the Filipino family needs help.
Government namin, hindi kami tinutulungan. Takbo kami doon hanggang doon. Hingi kami ng hingi. Wala na kaming hiya.
And this is where the government should have come in. Access to food is a human right according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Should that not be convincing? A hungry person cannot work. They could also neither stimulate nor produce anything for the economy. So, double yung problem no? Whatever their motivation, the government supplied Filipinos in need through the social amelioration program bolstered by the Bayanihan Acts with 18,000 pesos for their food and living expenses. As these laws were given a budget to execute, these would have not been regular insertions, which in paper would be reasonable so as to drive Filipinos back to employment. So ideally, it is a responsible or reasonable and modest reinforcement for our workforce.
Sakali si Lolo Jose Lagumbay, 79 years old, na makakuha ng ayuda mula sa Social Amelioration Program o SAP noong May 2020. Pumila siya noon para makakain ng pamilya at makabili ng gamot para sa asawa niyang na-stroke. May inaalagaan din siyang anak na PWD o person with disability.
Kaya gusto ko nang makulimitado ka eh. Wala ba na akong dumating sa amin?
Pero walang nakuhang ayuda nung araw na yon.
Oh, so should I be the one to say it? Yes. Things on paper do not work as well on ground, especially with issues in systems or infrastructure or maybe governance. Hindi lahat yan nasa papel. A small stimulus is just that. It remains small and ineffective in bringing the Filipino back up on their feet.
Mag-isip, pag gutom ka, kumakalam yung tiyan.
Correct.
So ito, the fact na nag-viral siya, ibig sabihin nandun yung pangangailangan. Hindi lahat may ayuda, hindi lahat nakakakuha ng sapat na ayuda. So ito, malaking bagay siya. Ibig sabihin din, gutom yung mga Pilipino and kailangan natin magkaroon ng action.
Community pantries. People then came to the rescue. Diba, nag-rise ang community pantries and it was an open source and a grassroots method to provide a space to centralize and distribute relief. Patreng Non, the pioneer behind the community pantries, said over 2,000 community pantries have been recorded nationwide. Kita naman natin talaga kung paano nagtutulungan ang mga Pilipino pag insufficient ang mga needs na natatanggap natin. And this did not only help feed the hungry, but it also helped the local farmers to at least sell their produce despite the decline in their sales due to the difficulty and mobility across the country. Can we call that resilient? Well, definitely. But it is not the government's adjective to abuse. Taxes which should have funded the state's basic services and social amelioration lies in questionable hands. The Bayanihan 2 law lapsed last year with 18.4 billion pesos in allocations remaining unspent, leaving a number of critical pandemic response programs unfunded, including 6.6 billion pesos for laboratory testing services and hiring of health workers, 4.6 billion for digital learning resources and student subsidies, and another 4.6 billion for service contracts or public transport workers.
Malaman lang natin kung ilang katao ang makakasali dito sa ayuda at kung magkano. Ang desisyon po na magkaroon ng supplemental budget pa o karagdagang pundo ay nasa poder po ng ating Pangulo.
Sabi naman ni Cabinet Secretary at IATF Co-Chairperson Carlo Nograles, isa pa sa konsiderasyon ang pagpasa ng Bayanihan 3 ng Kongreso.
Kung sasabihin ng Congress na kailangan natin iripaso or pumasa ng bagong bayanihan law para tugunan yung pangangailangan ng mga MSMEs, then it's really up to Congress to do that, no? Dahil ng ginawa nila sa Bayanihan 1 at Bayanihan 2.
On May 9, we finally get to choose. Choose a government leader that can curb the hunger situation of the country and provide us with clear economic plans for recovery. Choose a government leader that will improve our crisis response into one that will lead us safely out of this pandemic. Ngayong 2022, ang panawagan ng Now You Vote ay kabataan ang maririnig, katotohanan ang mananaig. It is time to exchange your views and knowledge with your peers. Engage your communities and candidates for a meaningful change beyond the ballot, and commit to your right to suffrage, as your vote defines the Philippines of our generation, and maybe the next. Bukas na bukas ang aming online tanggapan for youth activation sessions and resources to help you make your big decisions and to nurture your important conversations. So, don't hesitate to email us at secretariat.nyv@gmail.com. And you can also join our Discord server. Makiugnay, makipagtalakayan, at bumoto kasama ang inyong kapwa kabataan sa discord.gg/nowyouvotehub. And this has been Alia, reminding you to participate in 2022's most important conversation and to make your 2022's biggest decision on May 9, 2022. See you next episode.
Kabataan ang maririnig, katotohanan ng mananaig. Oras na, tayo na, boto mo'y mahalaga. Kung hindi ngayon kikilos, kailan pa ba?